Hello again. The president's spokesperson, Vincent Magwenya, has just concluded his briefing to the media at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. The president has been criticized recently for his action or lack thereof relating to the state capture inquiry report after addressing the nation, of course, on what steps will be taken to deal with the report's outcomes. eNCA senior reporter Siphamandla Goge attended that briefing that ended just a short while ago by Mr. Magwenya. He's joining us now from the Union Buildings, where he is still located this hour. Good afternoon, Ncome, and thank you for your time here on today. Well, I mean, Mr. Magwenya was asked, as to be expected, about what does the president think about the criticism that has been leveled against him, especially last weekend, by his two predecessors, Thabo Mbeki and Jacob Gedleyihlekisa-Zuma.
Indeed, simply because that criticism came from two people who have occupied the very same office that he currently occupies. Add in the mix there former President Kgalema Motlanthe, so it's three: former President Thabo Mbeki, former President Jacob Zuma, and somehow former President Kgalema Motlanthe, all of them same weekend having some harsh criticism for the current president and the current state of South African affairs, socio-economic challenges and all other issues that are facing the country as we speak. Well, the presidential spokesperson saying it's okay to criticize the president. It's a democratic right of everyone and anyone to do so, but that criticism should be based on facts, not on what he calls rumor-mongering. He went and tried to highlight the achievements of the current president since taking over office, saying there have been some positive gains that have been registered, saying in the past the current president inherited basically a collapsing state plagued by corruption, plagued by serious socio-economic challenges, including state capture in the mix. We did put it to him to say, well, he did not necessarily inherit it. From 2012, he's been part of the South African government and state, and all the rot that has been happening regarding state capture, he's been very instrumental in terms of government in South Africa as the deputy president who was chairing even the war room on Eskom. All the revelations that have been highlighted by the Zondo Commission on issues of state-owned entities. Current President Cyril Ramaphosa was the one overseeing SOEs when he was the Deputy President of the Republic. He kept quiet about what was happening. This is how Mr. Magwenya responded in saying, yes, criticize the President, but come up with facts.
We'll continue to share more details of major milestones of the Ramaphosa-led administration in the coming weeks. However, it's important to emphasize that when people judge the President's performance in office, they do so based on facts and not based on rumor-mongering and other misinformed perceptions.
There's been a lot of criticism against the president, Siphamandla, recently, even from people who are not former predecessors in terms of that office there at the Union Buildings. The bigger issue that keeps on coming up, and the former President Kgalema Motlanthe mentioning it when he was speaking at his foundation's conference in the Drakensberg last weekend, that from the onset, he was saying the way the president has handled the Phala farm matter from the onset leaves much to be desired. And then Mr. Magwenya defending the president on the Phala matter today.
It's a scandal that will not go away, even though the president and those who work with him wish that the scandal will go away. It's far from being over. If you take into account that there are investigations that are underway, UDM leader General Bantu Olomisa saying it appears as if the Hawks are trying to shield the president from the ongoing investigations. There is that upcoming session whereby the president will have to submit his responses to the independent panel in Parliament, whereby he will have to outline what happened. I think in terms of the time frames and deadlines, he's got up until November 6, if I'm not mistaken. I'm subject to correction there, but processes are underway. So Phala is far from being over, even over the weekend, or rather when former President Jacob Zuma had his media briefing saying, your president is corrupt. You media people are quiet about Phala, saying your president is having a side harshly while he's the president, which is not allowed. So Mr. Magwenya, responding to that criticism by the former president and by former President Kgalema Motlanthe and other, sections of the South African society that have criticized the president over how he has dealt with the issue of Phala Phala. Mr. Magwenya saying, well, there's been no conflict of interest when it comes to what the president has been doing regarding the Phala Phala issue. Let's take a listen.
The president decided to dispose of those interests, which may give rise to a conflict. On the 26th of November 2014, Shanduga announced Mr. Ramaphosa's divestment from the group. This involved the disposal of interest in regulated sectors like mining, telecommunications, and energy, all those which may give rise to a conflict of interest. He retained assets in some of the non-regulated sectors like property, farming, and restaurants. Although not required by the Executive Ethics Code, Mr. Ramaphosa put these remaining assets from the Shanduga divestment under the management of independent and professional persons. These non-regulated interests have subsequently been disposed of.